Number 1, please share 3 foundational skill sets that you believe women looking to succeed in business need to attain.
So, I'm going to also combine that with one of the other areas that I also stress. And it's going to be pretty easy to remember. I call it the 3 E's. And the first would be education, which you're all doing right now. The other is exposure, and that's ensuring that you're exposed to experiences, that you're exposed to things that are going on, that you're exposed to people, that you're exposed to just businesses in general, and different kinds of ideas, so they don't intimidate you. And then the last one of the E's is experience, and get different kinds of experience, and that can be as simple as travel. It's looking at things that are perhaps foreign to you, whether it's picking up a different hobby, a different sport, but have different kinds of experiences, because all of those things broaden you, expose you to things that perhaps are foreign to you or new to you, but they make you a better person, they broaden your experiences, and they decrease the intimidation factor.
Thanks. Could you share why goal setting is so important and 1 or 2 ways you found that they've helped you?
Yeah, so anyone who knows me knows that goal setting is one of those things that I talk incessantly about, because I wish that I had really started setting goals when I was in college, and I didn't do it until I was probably in my early 30s. And goal setting really takes those things that we think about and we talk about and we dream about, and it's that idea of taking them and saying, okay, this is what I want to do, and I put it on paper. So it gets it out of our head, and we put it on paper. Then we start to look at it and say, okay, this is what I want to do. And goal setting is so important because it helps us shape our lives. It helps us become more intentional and more purposeful about the things we want to achieve and the things we want to do. What I find so interesting is that the one thing that does not stand still is time. And time keeps marching on, and we look up and it's 5 years later. You look up, it's 10 years later. And if you don't set some goals for yourself, you're going to wake up, it's going to be 20 years later, and you really haven't accomplished a whole lot. So I'm a big proponent of setting a course for your life, setting the goals, breaking it down to smaller components, and also putting dates beside when you want to accomplish it. And then having an accountability partner, and this is having somebody who's going to say, hey, you wrote this goal down, and so where are you? Someone that's going to keep you in check. So that's why I think setting goals are so important. And I keep all my goals together, so I can go back now 20 years and look at the goals that I set, and it's like, oh, okay, so I check them off, and a lot of things that I put down on my goal list I've done, and it's a really good feeling.
Wonderful. Could you give a few interviewing tips for women looking for a new role in 2019?
Sure, and it's really important. So in interviewing, and we always talk about being confident, and so people say, well, what does that mean? Being confident is really understanding your resume, first and foremost. Understand everything that is on your resume. So if someone asks you a question about your resume, you're able to speak to it. So that's first and foremost, when you're interviewing. Understand the organization. Find out what the company does. Find out how they do it. Find out the company's competitors. And you also want to ask some really good questions when you're interviewing. You want to ask the interviewer, perhaps, what's the company's strategy going forward? What's the vision? And you can find the company's vision statement and mission statement on their website or even under the annual report. But you might want to talk about that, and because it's public knowledge. And you also may want to ask just in terms of the objectives, where the organization is going and where they see themselves. And at that point, you can also talk about how you're a good fit for the company. So those are the things. Know your resume inside and out, and have some really good questions to ask the interviewer about where the company's going, from a strategic standpoint, and then also some of the short-term objectives, and then how you can help those the companies achieve those objectives.
Great. Can you share why mentors are so important and a few steps of finding the right one?
Yeah, so again, like goal setting, mentoring is one of those areas that's so important to me still, in my career, as well as when I was starting out. And I had the really good fortune, very blessed to have a number of mentors in my life. And why I think it's so important is that mentors help you see around corners. They help you not make the mistakes that you might have made if you didn't have somebody who's been down that road before. Mentors can also help you navigate, whether it's corporate life, academic life, Whatever organization you're in, mentors can help you navigate that because they've been there and they've done that. So they know the ins and outs. They can also introduce you to people who can help shape your career.
Diversity is a buzzword in business. Why is it so important to the business sector, and how can people maximize it? So you guys best role. Oh, sorry.
And really good question, because diversity for diversity's sake doesn't really do anything for anyone. But having diversity and having a richness of diversity is so important because we get a difference of ideas. We understand different ways of problem solving. I had the great fortune of being able to live outside of the U.S. for 6 years in 3 different countries. And what I came back with is that, there are many ways of doing something right. And, we all just don't have one certain way of doing it right, and that's just the right way. People come from different places and they have different kinds of resources and different experiences. So while we may have a problem trying to solve an issue, somebody else can come in from has a different experience or that grew up differently and says, well, why don't you do it this way? And that's something that perhaps we never thought about. So diversity is good for business because it helps widen our lens to the possibilities. It also helps us see things more innovatively. So that's why diversity is really good, and diversity is a competitive advantage. So yeah, I think of it as a moral imperative, absolutely, but diversity is also a competitive advantage for businesses. It helps them make more money.
Great. One last question for you.
Sure.
So you've worked for and consulted with top companies throughout the area. Could you provide us with your current thoughts on the state of women in business leaders? Especially, as you know, many people were upset when the number of women CEOs at Fortune 500 companies actually fell this year by 25%. So there's 24 women sitting in the big chair for the top 500 moneymakers in the United States. Could you share why you believe the number is so low, and any tips you have for women looking to take on the CEO role?
Sure. So yeah, that is disappointing that the number of women CEOs has dropped this year. And I think both of the CEOs were in New Jersey and one in New York. So yeah, disappointing. But the reason that I see the number is so low is that we have so few women that are in that pipeline, for those top jobs. Because it's all about who is in your pipeline, who are you grooming to become a CEO. So you need to have women that are in your pipeline. You need to have women that are coming into the organization and that show promise and that also desire to be a CEO. Start to groom them. Start to help prepare them to take on those senior roles. Give them the kinds of experiences they need to have. Let them run an organization. Let them be responsible for a P&L. Let them, start a business inside of another business. Get them some international experience. So those are the kinds of things that we need to do to start preparing our women to be able to take on those more C-suite and CEO roles. Additionally, how can we get more women, into those roles? First of all, women also have to declare that that's their aspiration, and to not be ashamed or afraid of their own ambition. As well as saying, this is what I want, and how do I get there? What are the things I need to do? So what's the preparation I need? So declaring that you want it, and not being afraid of your ambition, and going after it. So whatever that takes, whether that's additional education, whether that's getting, certain other training or experiences, having key experiences, whether it's also, understanding what are the derailers that are currently a part of my behavior skill sets that could be holding me back. So having that honest conversation and getting some insight and some feedback. And that's the one area that I think holds women back a lot, is that they don't seek the feedback. And they don't seek that critical feedback that's going to help them change the behaviors. So those are the things that I see. I mean, I could have a conversation with you, Alicia Ann, for hours on end about it, but I think those are the really crisp things that I see right now.
And as a principal of your own company, my last question to you is, do you have any advice for women entrepreneurs looking to make their own space in 2019?
I absolutely do, and it's one of those areas where if this is something that you're really sure that you want to do, then go for it. You know, oftentimes women will wait, and not just women, but I see it in men as well, but I see more of it with women, is that we will tend to wait till everything is perfect, till all, like, to the moon and the stars, everything lines up before we do it. And, you know, no time is going to be absolutely perfect. So just jump and go and do, and you'll figure it out. But also, you know, have your support systems. You know, have your support systems. I call it my personal village. And these are the people that will always give me the truth about something that I'm seeking from them. So they won't sugarcoat it. They'll give me the truth, the unvarnished truth, and tell it like it is. It's the tough love. But you need to have those people in your camp. So go for it.
Thank you so much. I thank you for myself and my sisters. Have a great evening.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank you.